Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Percy Dehne, and this is your weather for August 22nd, 2016. You can follow us on weather.gov/Alaska or email us on nws.ar.tvweather@noaa.gov. Starting out tonight for hazards, here along the northwestern Brooks Range, we have a winter storm advisory, winter storm warning, and that's going to be in effect until 6 p.m. Tuesday. And look for snow ranging from 4 to 8 inches, and that's mainly going to be over higher terrain south of Colville River. And then just south of there, we have a flood advisory through 2:15 p.m. Tuesday, and that's for Kobuk and Noatak Valley. And that then along we have a high surf advisory remains in effect until midnight tonight, and that's going to be for along the Chukchi Sea coast from northern Seward Peninsula and then west of Shishmarov. And then also farther south, we also have a high surf advisory. That remains in effect until 6 p.m. Tuesday, and that's for St. Lawrence Island and the Bering Strait coast. And then farther east over we have a wind advisory through the eastern Alaska range, and that's going to be for just west of Tok Cutoff for that region there. And look for southerly wind gusts to 50 miles per hour, and that's through 6 p.m. Tuesday. And then also for we have a wind advisory as well for Deltana and Tanana Flats, and that's the same advisory there through 6 p.m. Tuesday, and for southerly winds gusting to 50 miles per hour. And then our last advisory we have is for a flood advisory for small streams and rivers, and that's around Seward, including the Resurrection River, and that's until 4 p.m. Tuesday. Now starting out with the satellite, as I put it into loop, we have a cyclonic flow here, low pressure system that's moving up into the northern Gulf here. Plenty of moisture being streaming up to the north, so that's affecting the south central region, southern Anchorage Bowl, etc. As it moves farther north, as that moisture is being streamed farther to the central interior. And then over the southeast, we have high pressure sitting over here just south of the southeast panhandle. So they have a little bit of moisture here hitting the Yakutat, some light rain occurring, but pretty much just high clouds affecting the southeast panhandle. Then over the southwest region, we have a low pressure system here that's cyclonic flow right here in the Kuskokwai Delta region, and that's bringing plenty of moisture, southerly flow, onshore flow here through the southwest region here, and that's bringing moisture all the way up with a warm front and a weak stationary front extending through the Brooks Range. So plenty of moisture moving farther north into the North Slope region. Then farther out west, we're going to have, there's a strong occluded low pressure system that's moving in. So that's bringing some high clouds into the western Bering and the western chain. Otherwise, with this low pressure system over Dillingham region, we're going to have a cold front extending south there, moving into towards St. Paul, and a warm front extending farther west of St. Paul. So that's bringing some moisture into the Bering. And watch this flow right here. There you can see the cyclonic flow here in the YK Delta region with that system. And today's weather, here's that low pressure system I've been talking about over the YK Delta region. Here's bringing southerly flow and a warm front extending just along the east of the Seward Peninsula. So plenty of moisture being pumped up into the farther north. Then you have the high pressure system sitting over the Beaufort Sea. So that's northeasterly flow in here, bringing in cooler temperatures. So you'll see continued light rain. And later on tonight, I'll mention with conditions over your northwestern Brooks Range. Over the southeast panhandle, again, that high pressure is dominating, a ridge extending over there. The main pressure maker here is this low pressure system, the 1,012 millibar low, with a warm front that's being pushed up into the northern coastal communities. So plenty onshore flow and moisture being pumped up into the northern coastal communities, and that's making it farther north through the Copper River Basin and extending up into the central interior. This low pressure system over the southwest interior, you'll have somewhat of a dry slot here over the Alaska and Aleutian Range. Then tonight's forecast, this low pressure system over the YK Delta region will pretty much just sit there, and you're going to have a weak stationary front. These cooler temperatures up here, you'll see the precipitation start to change over from rain to a wintry mix, rain and snow. So that'll be by midnight tonight in that region. So you'll see some snow start accumulating after midnight. And then to the southeast, again, continued with this low pressure system sitting over Kodiak region in a southerly flow. Some of this moisture is going to make it over into the southeast panhandle, so look for some light rain there. Otherwise, pretty much all rainy conditions with this southerly flow pushing up from the North Pacific into the northern Gulf, as well it makes it into the central interior. So. And then over the western, you have a high pressure system sitting over the western chain there, and that's extending into the western Bering as well, and with a warm front that's starting to push in from the west off of the Kamchatka Peninsula. Tuesday's forecast, this low pressure system moves continue a little bit farther north, but it'll be just south of the Brooks Range. And then you have you'll have moderate snowfall in that region in the northern Brooks Range with those cooler temperatures. So that'll definitely probably hit the warning level there they put out for the winter storm there for the North Brooks Range. But otherwise, pretty much all southerly flow. You're going to have continued rainy conditions for Tuesday for southwest and the south central mainland areas. For the southeast, continued weak trough pushing in, so you continued light rain, some scattered showers farther north near Yakutat, but otherwise pretty much overcast conditions, rainy day for Tuesday. And then the central Bering to the central Aleutian is going to have some scattered showers with this northeasterly flow, northerly flow in that region there. Otherwise, not much there, just some stratus being pulled down from the north, from the northern Bering. Otherwise, that warm front will push farther north, continued high pressure over the western Aleutians. For Wednesday's forecast, the low pressure system will move just a little bit farther north over the Seward Peninsula, and then you'll have that warm front or stationary front extending along the Brooks Range. Continued light rain with this. You'll have a little bit of dry slot here over the Tin City region there, so you'll have some sky starting to break up there. Otherwise, for the southeast, continued high pressure just sitting there. Another weak shortwave pushing through, so continued onshore flow and some light rain and some scattered showers, rain showers in the region. Otherwise, yeah, it's pretty much the same pattern. Over the Bering, you're going to have a weak trough that's pushing through, a little tighter gradient with isobars closer together, so some scattered rain showers with that. But otherwise, typical southwesterly flow through this region. Temperatures as of 2 p.m. Pretty much for, along the Aleutians here, the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula in the mid-50s. As you go farther north, pretty much all mid-50s, 58 in Glen Allen, 55 in Talkeetna. A little bit warmer as you go farther north in the central interior. And no surprise, the cooler temperatures along the Arctic coastline, and that's with, again, the cooler air and the northeast flow coming off of the high pressure there over the Beaufort Sea. So you have 36 at Barrow, and you start going along in the northwest coastline, you start warming up a little bit, again, with this low pressure system and warm air being pushed up. So Tin City coming in at 45 and St. Lawrence at 45. And then for farther along, the Aleutian change, Dutch is coming at 58, and then St. Paul and St. George 54 and 53. Adak and Atka both had 52, 57 there at Shemya. Tonight's low temperatures, pretty much the cooler temperatures are going to be farther north with the cooler air up there. You can see freezing level 32 at Barrow, so definitely the temperature is going to be cooling enough, so that is going to change over to snow, rain-snow mixture by midnight and then change over. So looks like a very good forecast by Fairbanks. And then southwest, you're going to have that continued southerly push of warm air in there, so your low temperatures will be plenty of cloud cover, keeping the temperatures in the lower to mid 50s. As well along the chain, you can see in the mid 50s. The southeast panhandle, they're going to be pretty much high pressure southerly flow here, so they're going to be in the low to mid 50s, 56 at AKwx and 54 at Yakutat. Tomorrow's high temperatures, not surprising, the warmest will be just north of the Alaska range, heading up into the Yukon territory here. You're going to see in the upper 60s, 73 there, just north of Denali. The cooler temperatures are going to be again along the Arctic coastline with that northeasterly flow and colder air coming in off the Beaufort Sea. As well along the Aleutians, you're going to have Alaska Peninsula and that. You're going to have pretty much temperatures in the mid 50s to lower 60s, that is. And then a little cooler as you go out along the chain there, western Aleutians, 52 at Shemya, 51 at St. Paul. The southeast, you'll have pretty much all 60s, a little higher there towards Ketchikan, but 66 at AKwx. Then tomorrow's flying weather, marginal to IFR conditions, again along the North Brooks northwestern portion of the Brooks Range, extending to along towards Kaktovik. Definitely with that system here, all that southerly push, so yeah, it makes sense why we have that. And then MVFRs extend down into the Bering, eastern Bering, and then a little bit to IFR conditions along the eastern Aleutians as well as the central Aleutians. The southeast, the worst conditions, IFR, are going to be along the Prince William Sound and the eastern Kenai, as well as extending along the northern coastal communities to Yakutat. Otherwise, the southeast will be MVFR, and that's in the morning. Look for conditions to improve in the afternoon with heating up, and so you still MVFR conditions, but the worst conditions will be over the Prince William Sound, extending over towards Yakutat region. There'll be a dry slot over the Anchorage Bowl, as well over the Aleutian and Alaska range here, but MVFR over the YK Delta region, extending over the east of the Seward Peninsula. The worst conditions will be along the Arctic coastline, as well extending to the northwest Brooks range. Tomorrow past conditions for Anaktuvik, IFR to MVFR. Adigan, IFR to MVFR. Lake Clark to Merrill, IFR to MVFR. Rainy, IFR to MVFR. Windy, marginal VFR to VFR. Northern entrance is VFR. And then Isabel, MVFR to VFR. Mentasca, VFR. And then Tanita, VFR to MVFR. Portage, IFR conditions. And then Chillicook and White, MVFR conditions. And then tomorrow morning's freezing levels. It's no surprise with this southerly push, stronger, warmer air here, though the western Aleutians, you have higher freezing levels. As you go farther north with that cooler air, that's 2,000 to 4,000 over the Arctic coastline here, you can see there. And then over the southeast, again, southerly push here, high pressure dominating just south of the Dixon entrance, so not surprising to see the freezing levels range from 8,000 to 12,000 in this region with that strong southerly push of warm air. Tomorrow's icing will be above 8,000 along the northern coastal communities and extending over the Kenai as well along the Alaska range. And then you take a swath that goes up towards the just east of the Seward Peninsula along the northwest Brooks range and along the Arctic coastline. So it'll be above 3,000 there for light isolated moderate conditions. Tomorrow's jet stream, strong northwesterly flow here, sitting over the northerly flow, sitting over the western Aleutians, and then it dips and it transitions to southerly, extending over the Alaska Peninsula region. Then you have a low pressure sitting over the Chukchi Sea region. You're going to have northwesterly flow here, and then a southwesterly push here. So you have jet support with that system that's creating worse conditions there with the northwest Brooks range. The southeast, you have a northwesterly flow, 50 to 60 knots. Tomorrow's 9,000 foot winds, low pressure system, cyclonic flow, 10 to 15 knots around there with a low pressure over there, sitting just north of the Seward Peninsula. Otherwise, primarily all northerly flow, 20 to 30 knots out ahead of this high pressure system. The Gulf, southerly push with 30 to 35 knots, and then it weakens to 25-15 southwesterly as you go through the British Columbia region and the Yukon Territory. And then for 3,000 foot winds for tomorrow. Again, a weak cyclonic flow with the low sitting over there over the Kotzebue Sound region. And then the low pressure sitting just south of Dutch. You have a southerly flow around that, 15, and then northerly 20 to 25. As well, a continued northerly flow through the Bering, 20 to 30 knots, with this high pressure just sitting south of Shemya. And then southerly flow stronger, 20 to 30 knots through the Gulf, and then high pressure just sitting south of the Dixon entrance. And then the flow will change all westerly at 15. Tomorrow's turbulence, below 4,000, light to occasional moderate. That's through St. Lawrence up through the northern coastal communities. Along the western Aleutians, you're going to have below 4,000, light to occasional moderate. And then also below 4,000 along the Prince William Sound region, as well as the Cook Inlet region. We'll be back after this with your Marines.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and we have a special guest in the studio today. We welcome Amanda Terborg of the Aviation Weather Center. Thanks for joining us, Amanda.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Amanda's flown in all the way from Kansas City, and for those of you that don't know, the Aviation Weather Center serves the lower 48 for aviators, just as the Alaska Aviation Weather Unit here in Anchorage serves all of Alaska. So I kind of wonder, what's the Aviation Weather Center in Kansas City doing to help out Alaska, Amanda?
Yeah, you know, we do a lot of collaboration work with our sister station up here. Lately, we've been doing a lot of work, especially in the satellite meteorology.
Okay.
In particular, we have been looking at ways to better identify icing conditions in clouds, which is a big deal up here because, as I'm coming to find out, even though I'm not from here, you guys have a lot of pilots here.
You have a lot of pilots. In fact, it's, when you say you can't get there from here, that's how you get there.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so with icing potential then, what's Kansas City working on?
Well, we are working on something that will help us, again, identify the icing in the clouds. You don't want ice on your aircraft.
No.
Not only does it add a whole bunch of extra weight to your airframe when it attaches to the wings and the nose cone, but it can also mess with your aerodynamics.
Right.
And in the most serious conditions, that can mess with it enough that you can actually crash.
It changes the shape of the wing, and that makes it sometimes impossible to fly, right?
It does, yeah. So we want to figure out a way to better forecast for that.
Makes sense.
Now this particular image is over Alaska. The colors here are a little goofy. It doesn't look like your run-of-the-mill satellite image.
Okay.
But the red is where you have liquid clouds and the blue is ice. But again, it really doesn't tell you a lot where you have icing conditions in that cloud. Because in those clouds there's little droplets and they're cold and they're actually below freezing, but they're still liquid. And that makes them sticky.
Okay.
So when an aircraft flies through there, those droplets are sticking to the aircraft and it can happen amazingly fast.
Right.
And so that's what we're trying to find. And there is a product called the Aircraft Flight Icing Threat that does this. And it's basically looking at the temperature of the cloud, and it's also looking at the size of the droplets to identify a probability and intensity of those icing conditions.
Okay.
And if you flip to the next image, this is a case from Juneau, Alaska, where this probably wouldn't have been the best day to fly around Juneau.
Okay.
Now there was an area of moisture that pushed south from the southwest up along the coast that pushed in a stratus layer. And in the stratus layer there was a lot of those super cooled liquid drops or a lot of stickiness.
Okay.
And so the flight icing threat was able to, in the pinks and the reds there, was able to identify where that icing was. Now this is really cool. You know, it's really cool to be able to identify that. There is, you know, of course, caveats to every product. Much as we wish it would happen, sun doesn't shine all the time, unless, I guess, if you live in northern Alaska during the summertime.
Right.
But we need that sun to be able to bounce off those clouds and to be able to see where those super cool drops are.
Okay, so it's a daytime only tool.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, of course, you know, we're in the era of advanced satellite technology, and there is a satellite that can actually use moonlight to see clouds.
Yes.
And so sometime in the future, we hope to be able to do that.
Okay.
Another thing that is a bit of a challenge is multiple layers of clouds. You know, you can only see so far through a thick cloud.
Okay.
And if it's thick enough, sometimes you can't see a layer of icing that's below there.
Right.
But even besides those caveats, this product has a lot of potential to help out Alaskan aviators here.
Well, it sounds like a really big deal, and something that forecasters at the Alaska Aviation Weather Unit could use probably on a daily basis, and especially in the middle of a really big storm.
Yeah, I would think so.
Do you have a really good success story in the lower 48 using this tool?
You know, it's a fairly new product, and so we're still evaluating it. But yeah, we've had a lot of cases where we have seen that it does tend to capture those icing conditions.
Okay, very good. Well, Amanda, thanks so much for sharing some of the very interesting satellite imagery and the tools that you're using there at the Aviation Weather Center in Kansas City with us here in Alaska. People can probably find some of this information online, right?
Yeah, here is a website here. It's a page from NASA Langley, and they have this imagery as well as a bunch of other satellite imagery that you can take a look at.
Okay, great. And I'm sure our friends at the Alaska Aviation Weather Center and the unit will be using that in the coming months there with your training and your help there to learn more about that tool to help Alaska aviators any day of the year. That's wonderful stuff. So thanks again for joining us, Amanda, and we welcome you to view any of our Alaska weather facts on YouTube anytime at the address below, and we'll see you next time.
Welcome back to your Alaska weather. Now starting off with the sea surface temperatures. The blue is indicative of cooler temperatures, so it makes sense with the colder air up here over the Beaufort Sea. And it starts getting modified as you go farther north, the warmer conditions. The warmest air, again, is over the Gulf in the southeast panhandle, again with this high pressure sitting down in this region, so plenty of southerly warm air pushing into the region, as you can see, warmer temperatures. For the sea ice, it continued is along the Arctic coastline. It is drifting away a little bit along the Arctic coastline, but with the next couple of days, with that southerly push coming in here, this ice will start moving a little bit farther away from the shore. Tuesday's marine forecast for the southeast. The inside waters, you're going to have pretty much southerly to 10 to 20 knots, southeasterly as you go farther north near Lynn Canal. Northwesterly flow 20 knots near the Dixon entrance. The outside waters, pretty much all southeasterly, southerly flow 15 to 20 knots, a little stronger as you get up towards Yakutat, southeasterly flow there. And your wave heights will be anywhere from 6 to 8 feet. For Wednesday, for the southeast, again, pretty much same conditions. On inside waters, 10 to 20 knots, southerly flow. Then northwesterly, small craft there as you get towards the Dixon entrance. And then the outside waters, you're going to have northwesterly flow from Sitka south. And then westerly, as you start getting towards Yakutat, it becomes more southerly towards Yakutat there at 15. And then for Tuesday, for the south central, you're going to have predominantly on the Northern Gulf, you're going to have a southeasterly flow, small craft winds, weakening a little bit as you get towards Kodiak, and southeasterly flow, southerly as you get towards the Barren Islands. And then through the Cook Inlet, northerly flow 10 to 15 knots, and then southeasterly going through the Barren Islands region there. But it shifts back to northeasterly going through the Shelikof region. And then Wednesday marine forecast, for the Northern Gulf, extending down to eastern Kenai, pretty much all small craft, a little bit weaker as you get closer to the shore, but southerly 15, 20 knots, southwesterly 15 there on the east side of Kodiak. Variable winds 10 knots on the northern Cook Inlet, southerly through the southern portion, southeasterly through the Barren Islands region, and then variable 10 knots through the Shelikof region. And your strongest wave heights are going to be, again, over the Gulf region. And then Tuesday marine forecast, the Bering side, you're going to have easterly flow 15 knots. Then on the Pacific side, southeasterly 30 knots, small craft there, just near Shelikof Island. And then easterly as you get towards Sand Point region. Then for Wednesday, easterly flow through the Bristol Bay region. Then you go towards, from Perryville southward towards Cape Sarashef, variable winds 10 knots. And then southerly 15 to 20 knots on the Pacific side. And then Tuesday marine forecast, small craft southerly with this high pressure system sitting there southwest of Shemya. Then you're going to have this northerly flow just shooting down from the central Bering. So you're going to have small craft, predominantly all northerly flow here through the central Aleutians. It will become variable on the Pacific side there just south of Dutch. And then Wednesday's marine forecast, southwesterly flow here from Shemya and into the central Aleutians. And then the winds start shifting more northerly as the ridge moves farther east in the Bering. And then light and variable 10 knots there from Dutch on both the Bering and Pacific side. And then for the Tuesday marine forecast for the west coast, all northerly flow there for the northern St. Lawrence region extending down into the Pribilos small craft. Coming off the Bristol Bay region, they're going to be easterly 20 knots and then southwesterly through Nunavik Island. And then Wednesday marine forecast, southerly push, gale force winds there near St. Lawrence Island, northerly 25 there at St. Lawrence. And then easterly of the Bristol Bay region, 10 knots, northeasterly there over the Nunavik Island region. And then the Arctic coastline, you're going to predominantly all small craft easterly winds, and then northeasterly extending down into the northern Bering Strait, and there'll be 30 knots there. Wave heights 4 to 8 feet. And then Wednesday's marine forecast shifted more southerly, and then easterly small craft from Kaktovik, all extending way over to Barrow. And then for tonight's forecast, again, that low pressure system sitting over the YK Delta region. You're going to have a weak stationary front extending just south of the Brooks Range. Plenty of moisture moving farther north. Look for the wintry mix to the rain to change over to rain snow mixture there over the northern Brooks Range. Over the northern Gulf, you're going to have the low pressure system sitting just northeast of Kodiak. Warm front extending into the northern coastal communities. Onshore flow, some light rain predominantly over the northern coastal communities and the southeast panhandle, and now they'll continue to move farther north into the central interior. And then you'll have high pressure sitting over the western Aleutians. Over the central and the central chain, you're going to have northerly flow, some scattered showers there in that region. And then for Tuesday's forecast, the low pressure system will move a little bit farther north, but not much. Weak stationary front, but the coolest temperatures, we have some moderate snow there. So look for plenty of snow to accumulate there on the northern Brooks Range, northwestern that is. And then easterly flow along the Arctic coastline. The southeast panhandle will continue to have light rain. You have a weak trough or a weak shortwave that's pushing up. So continued rain and scattered showers that'll move it into the northern coastal communities. And then along the central Bering, you're going to have scattered showers with that, and then high pressure over the western Aleutians. And that'll be it for your weather for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Find a living in fisheries. The UAS Fisheries Technology Program offers online study from anywhere in Alaska, plus labs and workshops in many Alaska towns.